Okay, today is 12 October. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. Will they check up on Ilhan too? That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. Okay, we got some news from Israel here. Before I get into that, though, I just want to welcome Jose, who is visiting. He talks to the church anytime he's around. He's an evangelist and goes around the world handing out tracts, and he can tell you thousands of stories of people's lives that were changed because of simply handing out tracts. So if you think you're wasting your time, you're not. We had a guy that was in this church for years until he died, that somebody gave him a tract many, many years ago, and he just took it home and threw it in the drawer. And one day he was cleaning out his drawer, and he found it, and he broke down in tears and came to Jesus. And there it sat all those years, but in the Lord's timing. So be sure to hand out tracts when you're going out, and just hand them to the lady at the checkout counter, or if you got a waitress, give her one. I mean, it doesn't harm anything. And usually you'll find that people appreciate it and they're willing to start a conversation. So thank you, Jose, for being here. He opened us today, so be sure to watch the opening comments. And then we have Chuck and Karen, once again, from Ohio. They seem to love coming to Sarasota, and so great to have you guys here. Really wonderful. Okay, news from Israel, from All Israel. I've got just one article for you today. It's kind of like something I read a month or so ago. UN Charter Article 80, the UN's article, blocks Palestinian statehood. Now, they're not going to listen to this, but this is the analysis from their own charter. Question presented whether the UN, by action of its Security Council or General Assembly, has the legal authority to recognize or impose a sovereign Palestine state upon the territory within the boundaries of the Mandate for Palestine, considering the enduring protections for Jewish rights under Article 80 of the UN Charter. Summary of argument. No, the UN is legally barred from such an action. Now, that's all you hear about is the UN pushing to start a Palestinian state. The UN Charter itself, specifically Article 80, permanently preserves the rights granted to the Jewish people under the Mandate for Palestine. These rights, which include sovereignty over the entire territory for the purpose of establishing a Jewish national home, were never extinguished by a superseding trusteeship agreement. Consequently, the UN is prohibited from altering these rights or transferring any part of this territory to a non-Jewish entity. Furthermore, the UN Charter confers no general power upon any of its organs to create or dismember sovereign states, making any attempt to do so an ultra-virus act beyond its legal authority. Argument. Article 80 of the UN Charter permanently vests sovereignty in the Jewish people and prohibits its alienation. The foundational legal obstacle to UN action is Article 80 of the UN Charter. As a charter is an international treaty, it constitutes binding international law upon the organization and its members. Preservation of mandatory rights. Article 80, often referred to as the Jewish People's Clause, explicitly functions to preserve intact all rights granted to any states or any peoples under existing mandates following their expiry. The Mandate for Palestine, established by the San Remo Conference of 1920 and confirmed by the League of Nations, granted exclusive political rights to the Jewish people for the purpose of reconstituting their national home in the entire territory of Palestine. The failure of the trusteeship mechanism, the only legal mechanism by which these rights could have been altered, was through a trusteeship agreement under Chapter 12 of the UN Charter, which would have converted Palestine into a trust territory. The window for such an agreement was the 3-year period between the Charter's entry into force, which was October 24th of 1945, and the expiry of the mandate, May 14th through 15th of 1948. No such agreement was ever concluded. As a direct result, the rights vested in the Jewish people under the mandate, including the critical rights of settlement and immigration under Article 6 of the mandate, and the overarching right to sovereignty remain in full force and effect. The UN, by virtue of Article 80, is legally committed to upholding these rights and is expressly prohibited from altering them. Any UN action to allot territory within the mandate's boundaries to a non-Jewish entity, such as the Palestinian Authority, constitutes a direct violation of its own charter. B. The UN lacks the sovereign authority to allot territories or create states. The UN's legal incapacity to impose a Palestinian state is further grounded in its fundamental nature as an organization of sovereign states, not a world sovereign. Non-sovereign states. The League of Nations and its successor, the UN, never held sovereign title to the land of the Mandate for Palestine. Their role was administrative. As a non-sovereign, the UN lacks the inherent power to transfer title to territory that it does not own, especially when the territory is already vested by, under law, in another party, meaning the Jewish people. No charter grant of power. There is no provision in the UN Charter that grants the Security Council, General Assembly, or Trusteeship Council the power to create a new independent state. The UN's powers are those explicitly conferred upon by its founding treaty, and this power is conspicuously absent. If the UN possessed the power to create a state, it would logically possess the inverse power to dismantle or decreate an existing one. This would effectively transform the UN into a world legislature with the ability to alter the global political order at its volition, a power it was never granted and which would fundamentally undermine the sovereignty of its own member states, including the State of Israel. 4. Conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, any attempt by the UN to recognize or impose a Palestinian state upon territory within the boundaries of the Mandate for Palestine is legally invalid. It violates the enduring protections for Jewish rights guaranteed by Article 80 of the UN Charter and constitutes an action beyond the legal authority and competence of the UN and its organs. Well, I'd say they don't have any competence, so that's kind of a moot point. Such an act is not only a void of legal effect, but also represents a fundamental breach of the UN's own governing treaty. There you go. From all Israel, 10 Israeli lawmakers attend Taiwan National Day celebration amid increasing tensions with China. China wasn't happy about that. They're not happy about a lot that's going on in the world right now. And China's going to be really unhappy when they wake up and see that Trump gave them a 100% tariff last night. So there you go. Or whenever he did it, sometime yesterday maybe. He just arbitrarily, and I should never say the word arbitrarily with Donald Trump, but they have been giving him tough times on the rare earth metals. And so what does he do? 100% tariff on top of your already high tariffs. And we'll continue to do that until you fall in line. So we'll see where it goes. We got some news from Christianity today. Breitbart. Chinese dictator Xi Jinping calls for strict law enforcement over religion. This has gotten worse. I reported on several of these over the past 5 or 8 years, and this has got much worse. Chinese dictator Xi Jinping told his Politburo that tougher law enforcement in religious affairs was needed to complete the project of Sinicizing. That means turning Chinese all face. I almost said turning Japanese because that song, but I caught myself. Okay, which means making them all subordinate to the authority of the CCP. Every religion subordinate to the communist power. Governing religious affairs in accordance with the law is the fundamental way to properly handle various contradictions and problems in the religious field. Xi told the Politburo to enhance relevant laws and policies, carry out in-depth legal publicity and education, and implement strict law enforcement to achieve full Sinicization, which he said was the only way to achieve social harmony. Xi directed his regime to make efforts to guide religious figures and believers to develop an accurate understanding of country, history, ethnicity, culture, and religion. He said religions in China can only be passed down healthily by always having their roots in the Chinese culture, and required efforts to promote the integration of religions with fine traditional Chinese culture. Xi told the Politburo to strengthen the five identities, one of the Chinese Communist myriad euphemisms for its tools of political and cultural control. The five identities essentially tell religious leaders they are required to imbue their teachings with principles of loyalty to the government in Beijing, Chinese nationalism, Chinese culture, Chinese socialism, and the CCP. That is your new Christianity coming soon in China. These identities clearly show that Beijing, for them, Sinicization is not simply a matter of translating the message of each faith into its own cultural categories, but a patriotic imperative that views religions as cogs in its own system. So when Christians say we're not going to do that, they are going to be cogs that are cut off from the wheel. Okay, that's coming in China, and it's coming quickly. Does anybody know where the word Sinicization comes from? It's from the son of Canaan, who is Sin. You've got Ham, you've got Canaan, you've got Sin. Sin went over to the east, and that became the Chinese people. So they still carry that right out of Genesis chapter 10, the Table of Nations, all these years later. You didn't read your Bible today, did you, ma'am?
I did too.
She did, she says. She didn't read Genesis chapter 10. Okay, that's my mom. I'm picking on her. From Breitbart, exclusive. Texas Rep. Chip Roy presses Dallas-Fort Worth Airport over allegations that a Christian pastor was blocked from entering the chapel during Muslim prayer. They closed down the chapel in the airport for Muslims, which they would never do for Christians, and he wants to know why. Mail Online. Here we go again. This is like the 8 billionth time that I have done this in the past 15 years or however long we've been doing this report. Catholic diocese. Okay, we've done the diocese of this and the diocese of that. We've done dozens of them, or as I said, 8 billion of them. Catholic diocese with 200 churches and schools files bankruptcy update after $273 million abuse bill. The Diocese of Buffalo has filed a Chapter 11 reorganization plan years after the church found itself in bankruptcy court. The new filing is essentially a roadmap of how the organization plans on exiting bankruptcy court. The plan comes 5 months after the diocese and more than 900 local survivors of clergy abuse agreed to a $150 million settlement. Last week, 2 insurance companies representing the diocese agreed to pay an additional $122.5 million, bringing the settlement to $272.5 million. More insurers are expected to increase their contributions to the settlement. So far, it's the second largest clergy settlement in New York. But not in the U.S. They've had some that go way beyond this, only trailing a Long Island diocese $300 million settlement. This is all over just the country. I'm not talking about the whole world, just the country. We have had billions and billions and billions of dollars taken from people, given to the Catholic Church, and then it goes to pay for perverts in the pulpit. So there you go. That's your Catholic Church in a nutshell. Mother of harlots. BBC. Sarah Mullally named as new Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, didn't anybody see that coming, right? Okay, so she's pro-abortion, she's pro-LGBTQ. She put graffiti all over the Canterbury Cathedral last night, and so they're all upset about that this morning. This is where the Church of England has gone. They have gone completely non-church. They're just Christian in name only. What's that? C-I-N, Chino? Chino, Christian in name only. Sounds Mexican. Chino. Anyway, some news from the Mideast and Africa today. Zero Hedge. Blatant fraud. USCIS operation uncovers fraud in 44% of pending immigration cases in Minneapolis. Well, it's the same state where Ilhan lives. So I've been posting daily almost on the USCIS site. Please make sure, and I take this article and post it with it, please make sure that you investigate Ilhan's case as well, please. Okay? Anyway, they never will, but it would be nice if they did. USCIS, working with ICE and the FBI, has announced the results of Operation Twin Shield, a large-scale fraud detection effort conducted across Minneapolis-St. Paul from September 19th through 28th. Minneapolis is home to one of the largest Somali communities in the U.S., reflected in the election of Ilhan Omar, a Somali American who became the first refugee and one of the first Muslim women elected to Congress. Also one of the first Congress people to stand up in Congress and say how much she hates America, right? The operation marked the first targeted surge of its kind, with immigration officers investigating more than 1,000 pending cases flagged for fraud or ineligibility concerns, according to USCIS. USCIS said officers carried out over 900 site visits and interviews, uncovering fraud, noncompliance, or security issues in 275 cases, about 44% of those reviewed so far. As of now, USCIS has issued notices to appear or referred 42 cases to ICE. In other words, they're out of here, with 4 individuals taken into custody. The agency expects those numbers to increase. Good. Send it back to Somalia as admin investigations are completed. The effort focused on marriage and family-based petitions, employment authorizations, and certain parole requests. USCIS announced that officials said the operation exposed a wide range of schemes. In one case, a man admitted to paying $100 for a falsified Kenyan death certificate to claim a marriage had ended. His spouse, still alive and living, sounds like Ilhan, right? Still alive and living in Minneapolis with their 5 children, was very much present. Another case involved the son of a known or suspected terrorist who overstayed his visa and had previously been denied multiple immigration benefits for marriage fraud. Sounds like her again. A petitioner confessed to marriage fraud only hours after swearing during a USCIS interview that her marriage was genuine. In yet another case, an immigrant manipulated an elderly U.S. citizen spouse in a fraudulent marriage that also involved elder abuse. USCIS is declaring an all-out war on immigration fraud, as they should. They always should have been. We will relentlessly pursue everyone involved in undermining the integrity of our immigration system and laws. With help from ICE and the FBI, USCIS's Operation Twin Shield was a tremendous success. Hundreds of bad actors will be held accountable. According to USCIS, this is the first time the agency has deployed resources at this scale in one geographic region. Officials emphasized, unlike during the Biden admin, immigration officers are now empowered to thoroughly vet applicants as required by law and to pursue immigration fraud wherever it is encountered. In other words, Biden, they have these laws right on the books. Biden said you are to ignore those laws. You are to let these people come in and become citizens. And hopefully the ones that are citizens illegally, such as somebody I'm thinking of right now, should probably have their citizenship revoked, and they should be sent back where the president said he doesn't want them. That one in particular. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but Trump said, if you want, we'll send this one back to her. And he said, no, we don't want her. So we may be stuck with her. From Fox, Taliban kills internet across Afghanistan, citing morality concerns as UN protests. Fiber optic network is shut down, grounded flights at Kabul airport, and freezes banking operations across the country. We're just going to go back to the Stone Age here. Zero Hedge, refugees in Holland. And this is a heartwarming story. I thought I'd throw it in for you. Refugees in Holland can obtain social housing within 14 weeks. Isn't that heartwarming? Locals have to wait up to 12 years. So if you're a citizen, you can wait 12 years, but in 14 weeks, they're allowed in and they get a house. The Netherlands is the second most densely populated country in Europe. And with surging mass immigration, it has been experiencing a raging housing crisis for years. However, despite this crisis, refugees can gain access to social housing in a mere 14 weeks. Those lucky folks. While the average Dutch citizen must wait up to or until 12 years. Now, efforts are being made to right this injustice for Dutch citizens with a new bill, but Council of State, the country's highest legal advisory body, is criticizing any attempt to block housing access to refugees. It's just like the Biden admin. Hate your people, love the people that don't belong here. The authority claims refugees should receive equal treatment. Okay, as required by the Dutch Constitution. Of course, the fact that there is no equal treatment currently because they get it in 14 weeks and everybody else has to wait 12 years, that doesn't matter to them. And that refugees are gaining access to social housing years before Dutch on waiting lists does not appear to factor into the Council of State's concerns. Biden admin all over again. Okay, Mongolia. Got something from Mongolia here. Still taking over the world, one country at a time. From TTW, Vietnam and Mongolia forge stronger ties in trade, security, digital transformation, and cultural exchange for a brighter future. The Vietnam-Mongolia Comprehensive Partnership is on track for significant growth as both nations continue to expand their cooperation across key areas like trade, security, culture, and technology. The ongoing visit of Senate Lieutenant General Tran Quang Phong to Mongolia is set to provide a fresh boost to this partnership. This visit plays a critical role in deepening bilateral relations and cementing future commitments in several key sectors, including strengthening political and paramilitary cooperation, boosting trade relations and economic collaboration, expanding cultural exchange and people-to-people ties, leveraging digital transformation for future collaboration, and strengthening security cooperation and global security. So there you go. Good stuff in Mongolia this week. We've got somebody in here that deals now with Mongolia on a trading basis. Sitting on that side of the... Oh, he's got his hand up. He's dealing now with Mongolians on all kinds of technological stuff. From Daniel 12 Technology, Gateway Pundit. AI actress, have you heard about her? Tilly Norwood? She's generating controversy in Hollywood as talent agencies line up to work with it. The creation of AI actress Tilly Norwood has generated a massive wave of backlash over the unsurprising news that talent agents were already lining up to sign the digital character. To those who have expressed anger over the creation of my AI character, Tilly Norwood, she's not a replacement for human beings, but a creative work, a piece of art. Like many forms of art before her, she sparks conversation, and that in itself shows the power of creativity. Ilhan van der Velden has said that talent agents had been circling the AI character, and she expects that an agency will be chosen to represent it, not her, in the next few months. A multitude of actors have protested the development. Of course they have, because their salary will go from millions down to nothings. Yeah, pennies. Are they fighting for sanity, or are they falling stars overcome by technical developments like Norma Desmond and Sunset Boulevard? Notable uses of AI in film and television include the de-aging of certain actors or generating complex visual effects. The fears concerning AI's ability to replace actors or illegally use their likeness have continued to creep up in Hollywood. They are not happy because their jobs are on the line, and all those millions. MSN. Emily Blunt calls AI actress Tilly Norwood really scary and warns Hollywood agencies, don't do that. Fortune. Hollywood erupts as talent agents circle AI actor Tilly Norwood. Not surprised, the first major AI actor is a young woman they can fully control. This is their excuse. We don't want that because they're going to abuse this young woman. And she's white, by the way, and we can't have that. So they're all going ballistic over this.
Sounds like Mickey Mouse stuff going on.
Mickey Mouse stuff going on. Very well said. Okay, it's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From Georgia Star News, Tylenol maker privately admitted evidence was getting heavy for autism risk back in 2018. So that's 7 years. Is that right? It's 2025 minus 5 plus 2, 7 years ago. The weight of the evidence is starting to feel heavy to me, said Rachel Weinstein, U.S. Director of Epidemiology for Janssen, the pharmaceutical arm of Johnson & Johnson, in 2018. Johnson & Johnson marketed Tylenol at the time, but in 2023 spun off its consumer products division into a separate company called Kenvue. Legacy media headlines and vocal public health experts have dismissed the conclusion of President Trump and HH Secretary Kennedy that Tylenol taken in pregnancy and early infancy has driven rises in autism, but one stakeholder has for years viewed the evidence as credible enough to act upon, at least privately. The makers of Tylenol themselves. The DCNF obtained the company documents from the law firm Keller Postman LLC, which brought a class action lawsuit against Kenvue, a decade before Weinstein's email in 2008. Johnson & Johnson began receiving queries from consumers and physicians about a possible link, emails show. 2008! Not much choice but to consider this a safety signal that needs to be evaluated. J&J Office of Consumer Medical Safety lead Andre Mann wrote in 2008 after receiving a letter from a physician with concerns. So it's not just 2018 where one of the board was worried. 2008, the company itself was worried. And why do you think they spun that off into another company? So that they don't have to be liable for what happens, right? Financial Express. Bombshell memo claims Johnson & Johnson admitted to Tylenol autism link years ago. Gateway Pundit. Multi-agency task force has seized 1 million pounds of cocaine in fiscal year 2025, enough to kill every single American. Fox. Drug Task Force seizes record-breaking 1 million pounds of cocaine, denying cartels and narco-terrorists $11 billion. 1 million pounds of cocaine is enough to fill 42 dump trucks. That's a lot of cocaine, folks. You know what? And they were just letting it over the border without any consequences a year ago. 1 year ago. Morality. Zero hedge. Slovakia passes constitutional amendment recognizing only two genders. Slovakia. Fox. House Republican says teen son's school promotes non-monosexual identities in AM announcements, urges action. Remember when you used to listen to AM announcements and they get on there and, this is the principal, and I'd like to tell you that we have a special beef for lunch today. We don't know what kind of animal it's from, but we call it beef. Right. And that's the kind of announcement you got back then. Now they're giving you non-monosexual identity information in your morning speech. Wow. Can you imagine that? No. Gateway Pundit. Existential threat. Planned Parenthood faces potential $1.8 billion liability in major Medicaid fraud lawsuit. Good. WCVB. 16 states sue the Trump admin over threats to pull funding for sex education on gender diversity. Western Journal. New Jersey Democrats want to force DEI and wellness checks on home-schooled children. The Post-Millennial. Quebec, throuple. You know what a throuple is? 3 people living together pretending they're married? Quebec throuple. All males, by the way, adopts a young girl despite legal limits on parental recognition. They don't even allow it under law, and yet they've allowed it because they're 3 guys, and it's just a girl. That kid is doomed. Fox. Woman disrobes at California school board meeting in protest over locker room policies. It was a good thing. She was wearing a bathing suit, and she said, I'm here to show you what my daughter has to go through. And she takes off. She's got a bathing suit, so it was perfectly fine. They went ballistic and closed it down. We can't have that in a public meeting. And, of course, the retard in charge of the council's got a mask on. He's sitting there with a mask on, right? From the, let's see here, Breitbart. Department of Education probes Fairfax County Public Schools over claims staffer arranged students' abortions. Gateway Pundit. Pennsylvania Democrat House candidate funneled money meant to help recovering opioid addicts to bring kids LGBTQ plus youth center offering medical transition seminars. So we got these people on drugs that we're trying to get off. No, that money is going to be moved somewhere else to this. Ynet. I wasn't fit to decide. Teen regrets gender reassignment surgery and sues the hospital and surgeon for $3 million. Well, that person's life is ruined. Ruined. From the Post-Millennial, Portland City Council member tells Antifa agitators to use, this is a council member, having a Zoom meeting with their little Antifa members, to use burner phones and hide their identities to escape prosecution during militant protests. Council members telling them to break the law and how to do it. Got some other news for you here. Britain may pay Palestinian Arabs due to state recognition. Yeah, after the British government recognized the Palestinian state earlier this week, which 2 weeks ago, representatives of 12 Palestinian families went to the Foreign Office in London, demanding that the British government acknowledge the war crimes committed during the British Mandate in Palestine. In the petition, it was 400 pages long. They had it already. They've been waiting for this to set them up. In the petition, the Palestinian families described 3 decades of abuses, including killings, torture, expulsions, and collective punishment by British forces, which suppressed the Palestinian Arab population to the point of war crimes and crimes against humanity. They are demanding financial compensation and public apology from the British government. You do one thing, you get blowback in another, right? Mail Online. Pentagon urges arms makers to double or even quadruple missile production with eye on China. The list includes Patriot interceptor missiles, long-range anti-ship missiles, Standard Missile-6 missiles, precision strike missiles, and joint air-to-surface missiles. Patriot is a particular priority given Lockheed Martin's efforts to keep up with growing global demand. Informed sources said there have been a series of recent high-level meetings between Pentagon officials and representatives of missile manufacturing companies. The Wall Street Journal report came a few days after the Washington Post said an unusual meeting of hundreds of top U.S. military leaders was ordered by Hegseth. A senior Pentagon official said, "In my 30 years in the U.S. military, I've never seen anything like this. We might be on the brink of war." Before you go on, I'll give you something in a second. During this year's U.S. campaign against Yemen, which ended in May, Washington burned through at least $1 billion in munitions. This raised concerns in the defense community that the U.S. military would be left unprepared and would face real operational problems if a conflict with China were to erupt. Analysts have also recently suggested the possibility of a new war between Israel and Iran, which Tel Aviv is likely to involve Washington in. Okay, you call together every general officer in U.S. military and you tell them it's for fitness. Okay? I read one analysis that was from a guy that was in the CIA for years, and he said, when you do something like that, you are doing it to hide something else. In other words, you got certain people that will meet after the meeting and they will talk about it. But if they were to bring them in, it would be known what was going on. And so it was very insightful that this guy said, this is probably what happened. We're going to call all the nation's generals in and say that we're having a fitness report for you guys because you're fat, which is true. But besides that, we have something we need to do and we need to coordinate it face to face. There you go. Breitbart. Wikipedia co-founder Larry Sanger, he's one of the co-founders, not really happy with the way things have gone, tells Tucker Carlson that the site blacklists Breitbart News. Okay? Wikipedia co-founder Larry Sanger told Tucker Carlson that anyone can easily look up a list of Wikipedia's blacklisted sources. Breitbart features prominently on the list of media outlets that users are forbidden from citing, even if it's true, when editing articles on the leftist encyclopedia. Sanger told Carlson that Wikipedia's fully approved sources include, this is what they approve, no questions, cite it: New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, The Nation, Mother Jones, and GLAAD, which is the gay, GLAAD. These are all fully greenlit. The blacklisted sources are Breitbart, Daily Caller, Epoch Times, Fox News, New York Post, and The Federalist. So you can't use those sources on Wikipedia. Carlson, who then looked up at the greenlit and blacklisted sources during the interview, noted that the Anti-Defamation League gets a green light. Only for some, Sanger replied. If you're reporting about Arab-Israeli conflict, you may not cite them. You can't find the Jewish perspective on the war so easily anymore on Wikipedia. There's a serious academic encyclopedia of Christianity that is not allowed on Wikipedia. I was surprised to find that, Carlson asked, and we don't know who made this decision. To which Sanger replied, Mr. X is the name of the account. So somebody named Mr. X has decision authority. Zero Hedge, contrasting what I just read, Elon Musk unveils Grokpedia. He plans to counter Wikipedia's manipulation of the truth controlled by leftists. Good job, Elon Musk. Wikipedia, launched in 2001, has grown into the 7th most visited website globally, boasting over 64 million across 329 languages and attracting more than 4 billion visits each month. Officially, Wikipedia operates under the policies of verifiability and neutrality. But in practice, the world's largest online encyclopedia has been hijacked by left-wing activists who manipulate narratives and silence dissenting viewpoints. The danger is no longer confined to everyday readers seeking truth, as today's leading AI models are being trained on biased garbage. Given this backdrop and Musk's stated pursuit of truth to advance civilization, he revealed that his team at XAI will soon roll out a rival online encyclopedia integrated with the Grok chatbot called Grokpedia. We are building Grokpedia at XAI. It will be massive. It'll be an improvement over Wikipedia. Frankly, it is a necessary step towards the XAI goal of understanding the universe. Wikipedia's blatant breach of neutrality comes as X has circumvented leftist propaganda that can still be found on MSNBC, CNN, CBS, and other corporate media outlets. While Musk's Grokpedia is the counter movement against the establishment's ability to hold narratives through Wikipedia manipulation, the broader message is that the fight for narrative control continues. Musk is positioning himself to end the decades-long dominance of far-left power over public discourse. After years of lies and manipulation, Americans are fed up. Yet Democrats continue to manipulate the truth in the education-industrial complex. I like the guy. I really like Musk. I know he's a little wacky in some areas, but I like him. Trump does a good job with the left, too, with the news media. I was watching the Antifa thing that he called all the senior people in, and they're all together. And then when he finished, he says, I got to go. We're going to let you guys answer some questions and stuff. And so he said, we'll take a few questions before I go. And he went through one. And then he said, you, ma'am. And he said, no, that's CNN. She's the worst journalist on the planet. She doesn't get to talk. And he went right to somebody. Good job, Donald Trump. Zero Hedge, Germany's biggest tax hike since World War II. Faced with a rapidly worsening budget outlook, German Finance Minister Klingbeil, believes he has finally found a fresh source of revenue by scrapping the long-standing marriage-splitting tax benefit, a system that allows couples to pool income and reduce their income tax bill, which makes sense, they're married. He hopes to plug the ever-widening budget holes. Now, this is what the left did to the people in the project so that they never get married, because if they do, then they don't get the benefits that they would get not married, and they've ruined an entire culture of people in this nation. It marks the preliminary climax of a tax hike debate designed less to fix Germany's fiscal crisis than to relieve politicians from the pressures of implementing structural reforms. So there you go with that. Is Germany is in a pickle right now. They're wasting money on people coming into the country. They've got those same people killing their own citizens and they don't care about it. And now they're tearing apart the nuclear family in Germany so they can get more money out of the citizens, so they can get more non-citizens in to kill more of them. Zero Hedge. U.S. intel warns China is modifying tank-carrying ferry fleet for potential Taiwan invasion. The entire ferry fleet that they have, they're modifying it. So you wonder what maybe they were talking about at the Pentagon a couple weeks ago? Maybe Taiwan? All those missiles they need? Maybe Taiwan? I don't know. Zero Hedge. Tesla shares. Remember how they tanked so bad because everybody hates Tesla? Surge to 2025 high after Q3 deliveries smash expectations. Breitbart. $500 billion. $500 billion. Elon Musk becomes the world's first person to achieve $500 billion net worth. They believe that he will be at $1 trillion soon if he keeps things up. Zero Hedge, officially terminated. FBI severs all ties with SPLC. Patel slams disgraceful record. Southern Poverty Law Center. They're the terrorists in Alabama that say you are terrorists. Okay, who said it? I love to think of nature as an unlimited broadcasting station through which God speaks to us every hour if we will only tune in. I'll give you a hint. He was credited with making peanut butter. Carver. George Washington Carver. Yes. Somebody else, I went online, somebody else disputed the peanut butter thing, but as far as I'm concerned, he invented it. That's what I heard, and I'm sticking with it. That's going to be my, what do you call it when you, cognitive dissonance. Oh, they actually found it was somebody else. No, it was Carver. Okay, I have no Lesrick for you. Les's mother died on Thursday morning, and he has been spending the week tending to business. So have a prayer for Les and Kathy. Got a couple ironies, and we'll be done. Right on time, too. Metro. The FBI's website for reporting cyber crimes just got attacked by cyber criminals. And the Gateway Pundit. Portland anarchists firebomb rapper Ice Cube's tour bus after reportedly mistaking it for an ICE deportation bus. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.